Most of us have only heard and read about the Holocaust, but my guest lived it. Claire Heymann survived capture, slave labor, Auschwitz, and more. Thank you for joining me. I want to take you back. You were a young teenager in a small town in Germany the night of Kristallnacht. What happened that night when they came to your house?
We were prepared that they would come to us. My mother and father said they're burning all the synagogues in a big city. So we prepared ourselves and we put the little children in a separate room so they shouldn't know anything. So in the meantime, 20 brown uniform as art trooper from the next town came and demolished our house. The kids, we went under the bed and we were hiding. So we had no beds to sleep. They demolished the house. They ripped the beds open with the feathers, so we had no room to sleep. So they put us one night in a prison next town, so we should have to sleep, a place where to sleep. They took my father away right away and put him in a big city, collected where all the men they collected, and sent him to Dachau. Dachau was a big concentration camp.
Right.
And so they put him there, and they let my grandfather go home because he was too old to send away. So they kept my father for 6 months. So when he came back, he says to my mother, "Why, we have to, if we don't leave now," we had an affidavit. So my aunt sent an affidavit, but we couldn't get out. So my father was a Zionist, and they wanted us to go to a camp where the Zionists could stay safe. But my mother says, I don't want to leave my grandfather,
So your parents stayed?
So we stayed in the town, and in April, December, they collected all the Jews from surrounding town and districts, about 4 or 5 districts, and the people from my town, and they collected them to send them away. That was in April 1945.
Now, before that, you found your way to Frankfurt, and then you were taken...
So when we heard they collected all the Jews, that was a year before. So I worked in Frankfurt, and the Gestapo collected 120 girls.
And they took you to Berlin to work in a factory.
Yes, from 16 till 24. Siemens needed some workers because everybody was in the war. So we worked for 2 years by Siemens.
Right, and there you had to wear
We had to wear yellow
star.
stars. We took the train to the factories with the yellow stars. That wasn't easy because there was already big antisemitism, and they used to make bad remarks, but we had to go to work.
And when that Siemens contract was up, you and the other girls, you were sent to Auschwitz.
So my parents were away in 42, and we happened to be by Siemens till 43. So in February 43, they collected us. They came and took us to Auschwitz.
Now, they took you in cattle cars. It was not luxury travel.
They took us to the train in cattle cars. And
crowded in.
We could only grab what we had. We couldn't take any belongings, just what you had on your body and what you grabbed. And that's how we went in the cattle car.
About 2 days like
2
this.
days. In 1943, I think it was February, they sent us to Auschwitz.
Now, when you got to Auschwitz,
When
the first thing that happened...
they collected was terrible. The trains, the SS was saying left and right. Who went to the left on the truck went to the crematorium. We had no idea.
To the crematorium?
We had no idea. My sister was tired. I said, no, we stay together. If she would have gone to the truck, she would have gone straight to the crematorium. In the meantime, the prisoners told us in Jewish, we should walk. That means if you walk, you go into the camp.
And in the camp?
And the camp became... girls stick together, and they took our belongings away already when we got off the cattle car. So we came into Auschwitz. They took us to a room, and they took our clothes, and they tattooed our number.
And on your tattoo, there's a triangle.
The triangle is a notice that you are Jewish, because they have different numbers for other prisoners.
And you became known by your number, not by your
And
name.
you had no more name, you only were called by numbers. That was our name.
Now, when you were there, I know you were treated very poorly and don't like to talk about a lot of it, but tell us about the wooden clogs.
Because they took our clothes and they shaved our hair, wherever you had hair. We had no hair. So they gave us the Russian uniform because Auschwitz before, they had the Russian prisoners there. They sent them back. So they gave us their clothes and a cup for the coffee and a cup for the soup.
And you wore around your waist, is that right?
They gave us strings. We had put it, this was, and a blanket. That was our belonging.
A cup, a plate,
And the soup bowl for
a
the
soup and bowl.
And that was our belonging.
And a blanket, of course.
And a blanket.
And the wooden shoes.
The wooden shoes was shoes. If they fit, you were lucky. If they were not lucky, we used to take newspaper to put it around our feet.
If the shoes were too big.
They fit better.
But what if the shoes were too small?
If it's too small, you try to manage your better. So the leg was very hurtful. Sometimes you were lucky you could change it under ourselves.
In the mornings, there was roll call outside?
Every morning was a roll call, and it was freezing. In Poland, it's very cold. So it used to be 2 hours roll calls. You had to stay outside to be called. And then they gave us a loaf of bread and a cup of soup.
For the whole day?
For the morning, yes. And with the 1 cup of soup, we washed ourselves with my sister, and 1 cup of soup we drank. So in order to have warm water, we took the coffee and made our water hot. So we shared it together.
Now you said there were 120 girls who went with you.
We were 120 girls, yes.
Not many survived.
And we only survived 8.
As the war was coming to a close, you went on what has now been known as a death march. What was that?
Oh, we knew already a few days before that eventually they liquidated Auschwitz. Auschwitz was liquidated. They started on January 18. So before we collected our stuff, we were hiding it. So we figured if it's going to happen, we should have extra clothes and organize some bread. So we did that. And that when it really came to it, so we left with a little extra bread. They didn't give us anything but just what we organized before. We were smart enough to hide it.
And so they just told you to start walking?
Everybody, the Nazis were afraid the Russian was too closed. So they started very early. So we marched out January 18, 1942.
How long were you walking?
We walked 3 days. Whoever couldn't walk was shot. We walked in snow and ice. So we had no more food, so we ate the drinking water, we had the snow. So finally, the last day, they put us on a cattle car again. They put us to another camp, Ravensbrück. So we were there 2 days. They collected us all together.
And did you have to start walking again?
No, we had to walk again, and then they found us in a different camp. I escaped.
How did you escape?
We were 6 girls. We were hiding in a barn. So I was the only one who was German. I couldn't speak Polish or Russian. They were Polish girls. So they knew somehow a little Russian, so we were hiding in a barn.
And what happened? Who
In the
found you?
barn, we were there 3 days. Then when the Russian came in, they searched the barn and they were screaming. Oh, they had girls. So it was an officer who was the captain of the army from that division. Mm-hmm. So they called him, who knew languages, because the Russian couldn't talk. It just happened he happened to be a Jew, and he spoke Yiddish, and so being I speak German and Yiddish, you could understand. He says, how come you're the only one here is German? He says, I lost all the girls that got killed. So I was hanging on to those Polish girls, and I spent the time with them. So he was very nice. He called his army division, and he told them he should get the food for us. And he took the whole German house over. The Germans left, so we were staying in that house. And the Russian army supplied us with the food.
So they actually took care of you?
They took care of us. So we didn't know what to do.
And after that, the war ended shortly after that.
Yeah, but the Polish girls, they wanted to go back to their hometown, so I didn't go with them. So I figured I gotta go home to my hometown.
And what happened when you got to your hometown?
It took me 3 days with a freight train, and I got to my hometown. And at first thing I went to the neighbors. They all came out, and the Germans were not allowed to go after 8 o'clock on the street, because it was right after the war. So the next door neighbor was a butcher and then the baker, and they all came out and gave the army whiskey and wine that the people could come and greet me all.
So they were all really kind to you.
They were very happy to see me,
How did you make it to the United States and when?
How did I make it? I had an aunt, she came here in 1921, and she came here and she sent affidavit. But we were 5 children, so it took a long time, and Roosevelt didn't lower the quota.
Right, there was a quota
so we could
for
not
Jews.
go.
So how many of your family survived?
None of them, except my sister. They took my parents away in 1942 to Poland, near Treblinka. My brother 8, my sister 12, my sister 14. They left in April 25, and they were dead already on April 29. I got that notice, I searched it, I got that exact date.
Now, I know you've had a wonderful life here because I've met most of your family at various times, and you've been very lucky. But how did this affect the rest of your life? I mean, I sit here and go, how do you go on after this?
We made sure, in 1981 we went to Israel. All the survivors got together to have a gathering in a hotel, and Menachem Begin blew the shofar. And then everybody was liberated to talk about it. And I met my husband, and we never want to talk about it. It never was mentioned, but they did their own research behind our back.
As children will.
Yeah. So I had a wonderful life, and I had 3 children, and we made the best of it.
What do you want people, younger generations, to know or remember about the Holocaust?
I think it should never be forgotten. It took me 30 years to talk about. But then I figured there's so much hate. We should definitely let the young people know to make a better world, what we went through. And they should know about it.
And thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure hearing your story.